As the 2022-2023 season approaches, the Toronto Raptors are reaching an inflection point. With Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., and OG Anunoby at or near the tail end of their contracts, the Raptors front office will have to make a decision on whether they want to go all in on the present or prepare for the future around reigning Rookie of the Year Scottie Barnes. Or will they? There is a way the Raptors can have their cake and eat it too by turning multiple supporting pieces into one top-level talent who can help them win now and in the future. And no player fits that bill better than Shai-Gilgeous Alexander. The Canadian guard has spent the last 3 seasons in Oklahoma City turning into a star, while the Thunder have stumbled through a painful rebuild. And with that rebuild unlikely to bear fruit anytime soon, the Raptors need to swoop in, go all in, and bring SGA home. It feels weird to say considering they just won a championship 4 years ago and were one of the worst teams in the NBA 2 years ago, but there actually is some urgency for the Raptors to win now, after finishing 5th in the East last season. VanVleet and Trent Jr. can both be free agents next summer if Trent Jr. opts out of his $18.5 million player option in 2023-2024, which he will almost certainly do after having the best year of his career with the Raptors last season. Siakam and Anunoby can become free agents the following summer in 2024 if Anunoby opts out of his near $20 million player option for 2024-2025, which is likely given the cap increase that should come at that point and Anunoby's reported dissatisfaction with his role in Toronto. At the same time, both Barnes and Precious Achiuwa will be eligible for contract extensions, and well, as you can see, money is going to get real tight real fast. On top of that, both Siakam and VanVleet are smack dab in the middle of their primes at 29 and 28 years old respectively. Long story short, the window for Toronto to turn this really solid core into a championship team is closing shortly. That's why this summer, the Raptors were reportedly engaged in discussions for Kevin Durant and also expressed interest in Donovan Mitchell. They know that they can't retain all of their players, and if they still want to build a contender out of this group, they have to cash in their chips for a star soon. Well, 1,200 miles south of Toronto, the Thunder are on the opposite side of the win curve, firmly focused on the future and racking up draft picks 2 years into a rebuild. At the center of that rebuild is Gilgeous Alexander, a 24-year-old guard with a herky-jerky playstyle and enigmatic game that shows signs of superstar potential.
Finds Shai, steps back on the three, on the run, at the buzzer, it is good, and Shai-Gilgeous Alexander shatters the hopes of the Clippers here at Paycom Center with the big three.
But that's all it's been in OKC. Potential. Although SGA has been limited to just 91 games over the last 2 seasons, he's been an animal when on the floor, averaging more than 25 points and nearly 6 assists per game. And what he provides on the court is exactly what the Raptors are missing. According to Cleaning the Glass, the Raptors have been one of the worst offensive teams in a half-court setting for the past 2 seasons, ranking 26th in 2021-2022 and 20th last season. A good half-court offense is crucial come playoff time, when the pace of play is much slower and teams can thoroughly game plan for each other. Simply put, it's what Toronto needs to get to the next level. There are 2 reasons for their struggles in that department right now: advantage creation and rim pressure. While the Raptors have multiple offensive options in Barnes, Siakam, Anunoby, VanVleet, and Trent Jr., none of those guys, outside of Siakam, is adept at creating advantages for himself and others. And while there's potential for Barnes to get there, it'll take some time before he begins creating advantages at a high level and finishing consistently. SGA, on the other hand, is superb in both categories right now. According to B-Ball Index, SGA is the best driving guard in the league, creating quality shots at the rim and finishing at an elite level for his position. Driving the ball, getting to the rim, and finishing there are some of the most important aspects of having a good half-court offense. And as you can see by this graph, SGA is almost unrivaled in that department. On top of that, SGA is a solid defender who can provide length on the wings and navigate through screens at a high level.
He's got 22, and the pass deflected by SGA, ultimately a steal, and we're going to get a foul.
He's a legitimate two-way stud that would fit well in the Raptors' defensive-minded system. Additionally, he's talented enough that he can help you compete with the Siakam Van Vliet core in the present, and young enough to allow you to build around Barnes and himself down the road. He is genuinely the perfect player to go all in for if you're Toronto. Here's the catch though. SGA isn't going to be a free agent anytime soon. In fact, he's entering year one of a fully guaranteed 5-year, nearly $180 million contract that should, in theory, keep him in OKC until 2027. But when has that ever stopped a team from pursuing another player? And for that matter, when has that stopped a player from asking out? While SGA has maintained that he's happy in Oklahoma, it's hard not to envision him getting disillusioned sooner than later. Just last season, the Thunder drafted another ball-dominant guard in Josh Giddey, and then, midway through the season, head coach Mark Daigneault started putting the ball in Giddey's hands more than SGA, with Shai assuming off-ball duties. And it must be frustrating toiling away for an awful team, being shut down 2 seasons in a row, and presumably having to endure a 3rd season of blatant tanking, with Chet Holmgren ruled out for this upcoming season. On top of that, SGA's connections to Canada are bountiful. After all, he is a Hamilton, Ontario native who plays for Team Canada under Raptors head coach Nick Nurse.
And Argentina makes some inroads into this sizable Canadian lead, and look at that play.
And in 2018, before pulling the trigger on the DeMar DeRozan-Kawhi Leonard swap, Raptors GM Masai Ujiri tried to move up to draft the hometown product SGA. Now, Ujiri and the rest of the Raptors front office will have to act in a timely manner to try and poach SGA from the Thunder's grasp. But what would it take? Most likely, with Scottie Barnes presumably off the table for even the likes of Durant, it would be a package centered around Anunoby, Trent Jr., Achua, and a plethora of draft picks and/or prospects like Malachi Flynn and Christian Koloko, which would help the Thunder retool and continue their rebuild. And while you might not think that's enough, remember this: stars have a say in where they want to go, so never say never. Regardless, the Raptors are reaching a crucial point in their timeline with this core. And like we've seen in the past, they're not afraid of making that move when push comes to shove. And while there will be other stars out there that will come and go, none of them allow the Raptors to be at their best in the short and long term more than SGA, who just so happened to grow up kilometers away from Scotiabank Arena. So when the opportunity comes, and it will, the Raptors can't miss out. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button.